see all the different levels of engagement. So I'm glad you're enjoying your topic and the World Peace Conference here at the University of Michigan. We have gathered 7 willing and confident volunteers who will agree to share the highlights of their breakout sessions. You were in one of those, I hope. And each of these volunteers is going to have 2 minutes to report out a summary of the key highlights and suggested action items that they want to take back to their communities. So if I could have my reporters, can we have a hand for our reporters? The Magnificent 7. They will all take a place here on stage, and we will hear from them individually and listen to what all of you have discerned are important points of our meeting today. So first we have...
Good afternoon. I'm Catherine Franklin. I'm with the Rotary Club of Ann Arbor West. I'm the current president. And I sat in on Luke Schaefer's presentation for fighting poverty and enhancing dignity in 2017 and beyond. So Luke co-authored the book, $2 a Day, Living on Almost Nothing in America. And he talked about what it was that basically encouraged him to write the book. There were a couple of points. So they were looking for ways to prevent and alleviate poverty. There's over 1 million families that survive on extremely low levels of income. Pardon me. So the key, thank you. Pardon the juggling act. The key was to identify why families have such little cash support. And for those families, do benefits really actually aid and support them? Identifying the major obstacles, costs such as housing, living in a depressed labor market, and the social issues, traumas, things of that nature, little family support. So basically what Luke said was, out of all of the research and all of the discussions that he had by traveling across the country, interviewing these people, learning who these people are, and really getting to know what their struggles were, the best intervention, he says, to support these families is cash. Because as soon as you empower people and they have money in their wallet and they feel like they are a part of society, they have their dignity. They have the respect that gives them that encouragement to keep moving on, to keep bettering themselves and to go forward. I found that to be the most inspirational part of what I heard tonight because, I believe everybody has their own true potential that they're born with. And so it's not just about battling the rejection, but giving words of encouragement to help people. So, thanks.
I'll just shuffle people across here to the front, and we have Tiara. And Tiara, you're from where?
Detroit International Academy.
Okay, very good. Well, let's hear about your session. What was it?
Okay, so basically we were in storytelling, and the presenter was Jessica. We went through the reflection. We had about 15 minutes to go through, and we had a free write. So what she wanted us to do was basically reach down inside of ourselves and find out what time we were most peaceful with ourselves. So we went through that, and basically after we were done, we did a group share. So we split up into like groups of 4 and 5, and it was diverse people, and we basically shared our stories about the time where we were most peaceful, and it inspired each other. We inspired each other because our stories were so, they were so deep, and they were so inspiring, and everyone was like, wow, that's really amazing. And so basically after we finished, we did the suggested actions. And so some people were saying peace labs, where you can tell stories online about trauma and healing, what you can do to offer and help find peace. Social media, ways you can deliver your own stories, the real stories. And also a website online called H2U, how water impacts people through the means of environment. Thank you.
All right, we have Alexis Bailey here from Wayne State University and Rotary. Wayne State, another of mine, the next generation of Wayne State. There you go.
Okay, so as you guys heard, my name is Alexis Bailey. We talked about, I sat in on the talk that was Peace Fellows, Connecting and Reinventing Ourselves to Transform Conflict and Build Peace. Our speakers, Fran and Ellen, left everything behind at home, and they moved to a completely different region of the world when they started working in either Cambodia or in Myanmar. And they both took a course. They took a course where they learned about how to better make peace in the world. They were already seasoned professionals in the NGO world. They had experience and such, but even they had lessons to learn and take from this. So Ellen found that while they were talking and they were listening to the professors and talking about the methods of creating peace, they learned that some of their methods that they've been using for over 20 years weren't the best. And so a lot of it wasn't so much about them learning about how to do things, but they were learning about themselves, and they were learning how to change what they were doing so that way they could work more effectively in achieving peace.
And now we have Catherine Deba.
Hello, I'm from the Bowling Green, Ohio Club with District 6600. And I was in the Pursuing a PhD in Peace Studies with Ashley Green, and we talked a lot about what innovations are happening in this area, all the different universities that offer peace studies and what those might look like between peace conflict, justice studies, all sorts of different areas. We talked about the challenges of how it's such an interdisciplinary area that peace doesn't stand on its own. There has to be something else behind it. Whether that's history, sociology, theology, anything, it all comes together. You need to know statistics to be able to do your research, being able to talk to all of those different people in different disciplines. And we also talked about the opportunities, how to find funding, how to get a job, what is the job market right now, how does that relate to becoming a professional, how does that relate to going back into the industry, to work in a nonprofit, to work with universities, where do you see yourself after? And we had a lot of great questions about what topics could you research, where does this lead, what are your dissertations and papers on, and just really inspiring to continue our education from undergraduate to master's degree and beyond.
And this is Benjamin Brady. Benjamin, go ahead.
All right, yeah, well, as said, I'm Ben Brady. I'm from Perrysburg High School Interact Club. And the group that I'm presenting is, I actually, to be honest, I don't have the exact name, but I wrote down Bringing People Together of Different Faiths and Beliefs. So our discussion was a lot about how to be inclusive to people and get along with people who are different. And that can be very tricky and very difficult, as you all probably know. So we were kind of talking about, we were kind of talking about different methods. And I have a whole lot, many written down here, but I think I don't know if I have time to present them all, but we kind of have the core values, which is kind of like the values needed to kind of be able to be successful at peacemaking, which are knowledge and understanding, and then skills, and then relationships. And they all are intertwined, but I would like to touch on the relationships, were kind of the one that stood out to me. It was about kind of formulating the relationships with people of different beliefs, not just tolerating them, like as some people would say, but actually kind of like going to a deeper level where you actually appreciate them and accept and validate their ideas. And the important thing is you don't have to let go of your own values, which I thought was very interesting. You know, some people are afraid to accept others' ideas because they feel like that means they have to consider the possibility that their ideas are wrong. And that's not necessarily always true. You can still be very affiliated with your own belief and faith, but you can also kind of learn about others and just so you can understand other people better. Not necessarily to change your own views, but just to kind of understand those people so you can form a relationship and bond with them. So yeah, it was a wonderful, it was very inspirational, and I found it very useful, and I think there's many different areas. Actually, I forgot to present the presenter, Chuck Workowski. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, but he had a lot of good points, and he had a very great talk and a great speaker. So yeah, it was a wonderful speech, and I hope we can take something away from it.
To hear our Rotary youth and just our youth in general being so engaged in what they're hearing today, and I'm very pleased about that. Caleb Smith is here. Hello, Caleb.
So I went to the Food Justice is Social Justice with Jane and Germaine. Food is a human right, yet food is a big challenge. Without access to affordable nutrient options, people don't have energy to stay healthy. Students who are hungry don't do well, which keeps them in poverty. We can help provide land for community gardens and compost, and make food choices with that support animal worker rights and a healthier planet. Think about buying ugly veggies. So we don't keep wasting. Buy local, eat meat a day less per week. Who likes to pick a warm apple right off of a tree? Rotary International's president 2017 has challenged each Rotarian to plant a tree to help with climate. What if each Rotarian would choose to buy a fruit tree that can be planted to help families get food? We can create more oxygen while growing the food. What if kids and parents plant these trees? Guess what? You can. To do this today if you don't have a place to plant a tree. Visit me and I'll plant a fruit tree in your honor with the nonprofit I run in Minnesota. Let's plant fruit trees in communities that don't have fresh fruit access.
I love it. He's a closer too. I just love that. I had no idea that was going to happen.
I can leave now.
Now here's our most seasoned reporter, Bob Holmes from our Rotary Club of Ann Arbor.
Well, I thought that I certainly went to the best breakout session. And after listening to Caleb and others, I realized that all of us went to the best breakout session. But I will say that my breakout session was given by someone who has gotten 12 million hits on her Facebook page. So I'm here to tell you something about the Tiny House Project in Detroit. If you don't know about it, you need to. It is run by Reverend Faith Fowler, who is a minister in the Cass Corridor in the corner of Selden and Cass, just south of the Wayne State University campus. Her program of tiny houses is located at the Lodge Expressway and Davison, if you're familiar with Detroit, just north of Boston Edison. Her vision in a neighborhood that has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of vacant lots and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of apartments and houses that are in less than substandard condition, basically uninhabitable, is to regenerate this neighborhood in a very profound way. We often hear that how income inequality has increased so much over the years in the United States, and really in many countries of the world, most countries of the world. But asset inequality is something that is even more profound in our society than income inequality is. Faith proposes to change that. A wonderful name for a minister, Faith, proposes to change that by building tiny houses, 250 to 400 square feet, that one person or a couple can live in. There's one built right now. There are 5 more where the foundations are in and the walls are up. The goal is to have 25 of them. And at the point that they are all built and people are living in them, there's the hope to have family tiny houses as well. It is aimed at a very important niche because they are aimed at people who cannot afford Habitat for Humanity houses. In Detroit, you've got to have an income of about $150,000. These tiny houses are aimed at people who have an income through employment, SSI, or what have you, of $900 a month, just missing the cutoff for a Habitat house. So a very important niche. These are people who may have been homeless at one point, although not necessarily, but they have an income, and essentially, without taking any longer, Steve, they pay a third of their income in the way of rent that covers utilities, insurance, security, and so forth. And then after 7 years, they own the house. And they own the house because very generous donors, some of whom are in this room, are paying money up front so that these houses can be built. And so, again, one of the most creative projects in Detroit, a city that needs more creative projects. And so it was a particular pleasure to kind of cover a presentation by somebody who I really consider a modern day hero. And go on the website for Cass Community Social Services. I think you'd be just as interested as I am. Thank you.